All right, buddy. Here we go. This is episode 31. We're going to call it 31. If I upload that other episode, it's going to be a lost episode. Because that's what we said in the episode, and it was like recorded before 30, and it's kind of a mess, so. But here we are. I haven't talked to you in using our voices in probably eight to 10 days.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because we both took little vacations.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was good. I had a good time. I mean, Korea's not my favorite country, but it was good to at least go there. So, all right.
Hey, you've been there before?
No, this is the first time I've been there. So.
Oh, so has it changed what you feel about Korea?
Not really. I mean, it reinforced a lot of things I already thought, and I don't know. Like I will say like. Some of the people were pretty friendly. So I don't know if I was like totally expecting that. I thought it would kind of be a little colder than it was, but we also went to like a lot of rural areas. The only big city we went to was Busan, and I went to what's the other one? Andong, which is like pretty big, but still has like a little bit more of a rural feel. I don't know, but it was chill. It was fun. Like I'm glad I went. I had fun. Caught some good. I can't wait to get the film pics back. That's gonna be cool. But
Did you go to the wedding?
yeah. I went. So
How was the wedding?
it's worse than a Taiwanese wedding. I'll say that. Taiwanese weddings are still the best weddings I've been to. So have you been to a Taiwanese wedding?
No, I guess not.
So basically, like the idea is like you.
Oh yeah, I have.
Have you?
But
Okay, so
not like a traditional one, just like a party one, not like.
I think that's how most of them are now. At least is
It's just a party then.
Yeah, basically,
then
like-
that's not anything.
it's a wedding. It's like you basically go in and like sit down and eat and
Yeah, it's basically like going to a fucking work banquet.
exactly, and that's how weddings should be. And it was chill and laid back. The one I went to in Taiwan, I've only been to one, so like I don't have a great feel for it. And it was kind of like a mix of American / Taiwanese wedding. But yeah, basically we just sat down. I can't remember if we ate first or did the wedding stuff first, but basically we just like did a little wedding stuff. It was super fast and it was sweet and it was fun, and we ate and we just chatted and like drank some wine and hung out, and it was really cool. The Korean wedding was not bad, but like it was the same thing but no food basically at first. Like you go sit down and you watch their ceremony, and they did a bunch of weird K-pop dancing stuff and like sang songs and stuff, and I don't know, it was okay, but it was just weird and like a little drawn out. But it wasn't as drawn out as like a Catholic wedding or something, so it's fine. Like it just wasn't that special. And then after we went to like a different part of the hotel and ate, and the food was really good, and they had like free drinks and stuff, so that was cool. But I don't know, it was all right. It was weird because like I didn't know anyone, and like people were like kind of, I don't know, a little bit standoffish. The only person I really talked to that wasn't like an immediate friend or a friend of a friend, I guess, was like the bride's dad. I like randomly ran into him outside and talked to him for like 45 minutes. Him and his
Really?
uncle. Yeah, I was just like,
Oh, the Taiwanese guy.
yeah. And because the wife is Taiwanese and the husband is Korean, and so he's just like,
Yeah, it's Abby's friend.
yeah. He's like, hey, what's up? And I was like, not much.
In English or
He
Chinese?
said something to me in English. He's like, where are you from or something? And I was just like, was Megoran. And he's like, "Wow, and then of course it like snowballed from there, and they just kept asking me questions like, oh, where do you live? And I guess he lives in Bada. And I was like, oh, that's like really
Oh.
close to me, and like we just talked for
Yeah,
a
that's
little
how
bit.
Abby knows her.
Yeah, exactly. So they used to live in Yangmei and stuff. So it was cool. I talked to them for a long time. That was probably my favorite part of the wedding, was just shooting the shit with like two Taiwanese uncles, because Taiwanese uncles and aunties are like my favorite people in Taiwan.
Yeah, they're pretty. Yeah. I gotta say I agree with that.
Yeah, they can. I mean, of course, there's things that like you. I don't know. I like getting into politics with those people is probably not always the best.
Yeah, because a lot of the middle-aged people tend to be the most KMT.
Mm-hmm. So it can be a little dicey, yeah. But they're always super friendly, and like they'll just talk your ear off about, like we just talked about Taiwan and like the differences between Taiwan and Korea and stuff. It was cool.
That sounds not bad. That aspect of it.
Yeah, and that was the first day, and then that night we like went to the bride and groom. They like rented like basically what was like a cabin. We like chilled out
Oh, I thought
there.
you were gonna say a castle.
No, no, it was like a cabin. Like we were in like the top half of a floor for like 800 NT or something ridiculous, and we just did like we had like a barbecue and like played drinking
Body
games and stuff.
shots.
No body shots, but we did play drinking games, and yeah, it was pretty fun. So. It
Sounds cool.
It was pretty chill. And then the other time, Abby and I basically just like cruised by ourselves and like went to a bunch of different places and kind of like winged it and like
How did you get around?
mostly bus, but we did some train too. The transportation in like the city we were first in was like trash, but actually like and I was like wow, Korean transport is like garbage. But once we got to like Andong and of course in Busan, like it's actually pretty convenient. Like it was pretty convenient, not too expensive. Like
Did you go to the DMZ?
nah, I wish. We were talking about like trying to go up there or something, but we didn't end up doing any of that. We just went to like some cultural villages and
Oh.
yeah, it was cool though. We went to that like town with all the colorful houses. That was kind of cool. Like Abby's
Yeah, the pictures look cool.
yeah, Abby was like, "This is like it's like." She's like, "Oh, it's so ugly," and I was like, "The pictures just look ugly because it's cloudy." Like that was one thing is the weather was garbage the whole time we were there. Is wind? It was like the windiest place I've ever been in my life, and I hate wind. I think wind is my least favorite weather pattern. I say that all the time, but it was like windy and cloudy the whole time, and like a couple nights it rained, and it was just miserable weather. But other than that, it was pretty good.
Fucking Korea.
Yeah, I have my thoughts about Korea, but for the most part, the people were really friendly. Their English isn't real great. I keep telling everyone, like, Taiwan has some of the best English in Asia, I think.
Maybe northern Taiwan. Yeah, well, man, I went to the traditional market the other day, and this lady just gave me the price in English, and I just like rolled the eyes like as far back in my head as they would go. I'm like, you can barely speak Chinese. Why the hell are you speaking to me in English?
They're just trying to be friendly. They just want to do what they can for you.
No, she wasn't. She gave me like a dirty smirk, like, "Why the fuck are you here?" And then she's like, 47.
Yeah, she's trying to stunt on you, and that's when you just pull out your Taiwanese, and she's like, "All right, yeah, game, checkmate, you win."
And then just bitch slap her. No. That's a joke.
Yeah, of course. No, everything can be a joke on this podcast. We don't anything we say that might be taken offensively should just be taken as a joke. Everyone should know that by now. We're 30 episodes in. People should know that.
People should.
Yeah. All right, let's delve into politics and stuff because I got in on a flight like 24 hours ago at like 2 a.m. and
How about we keep it under an hour? 45 minutes would be okay. 2:30.
we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So if we go long, it's okay. I'm just.
We can go on the weekend. I don't have plans.
All right, we'll see. We can do too. We got a ton of stuff to talk about, and like stuff's developing now too. That's gonna be interesting. And
All right, let's do Israel election first because that just happened. That's hot off Netanyahu's teats.
Oh yeah, man, I can't.
Did you read my article?
I guess I totally can believe it, but it's kind of unbelievable. No, I did not read your article. Yeah.
I just posted like an emergency article basically about it, but yeah.
I got to remember to post that. I'll try to post it tomorrow.
There's no rush. It's already basically dated because I posted it before Gantz conceded.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, why the hell should Gantz concede? Basically, he's got just as much of a chance to form a coalition. I watched an interesting documentary today, which was basically stating that like, because I was obviously for Gantz. I think Netanyahu's been an epic failure.
Yeah.
I think he's accomplished absolutely nothing for Israel.
Yeah.
And he's just like a waste of space and an old decrepit man. And keep talking about a one-state solution. I mean, he's just fucking everything up. And then,
yeah, I agree.
I guess, but basically, what some people were making the point that that Gantz basically, because people don't describe themselves as left in Israel, because I don't know, man, like the culture has changed under this culture of fear and eternal fucking conflict. Like people aren't that left. I mean, they used to be more left, I think, but whatever. This latest generation is very militaristic. And basically, he didn't provide a left alternative.
Yeah.
So it comes back to the debate we have in the United States, whether you should run to the center, which is basically what he did, or he should have ran from like a kind of a left alternative. But on the other hand, I mean, would he be shooting himself in the foot to do that? Is it better to run as a centrist and then lead as a leftist, or run as a leftist and lose if that's what you think will happen? I don't know.
I think it's better to run to the left. I think we've seen the third way thing has failed over and over again. But that's definitely
a
debate.
It failed sometimes, but it won. I mean, it won in the U.S. It won in the U.K. It does win sometimes.
It won in the U.S. very rarely. I mean, we've pulled that I'm saying us, not us at all, not me at all. But the Democratic Party basically from Clinton onward ran under that, and under Obama they lost like 1,000 seats. So I think it's not a good way to run personally. There can be more debate about that, but I think in general. But I think it's also, I say this all the time, like I think it's about framing. I think it's about how you frame that, because like you were saying about Israel and how there's no left. I mean, there kind of is a big left coalition because they're in some ways, like on social issues, they're super progressive, and in some ways more progressive than the United States. They have a national health care system, but yeah, militaristically, they're very, very right wing. Yeah, very hawkish, I guess.
It's complicated. I mean, yeah, they're definitely they've taken a pretty ugly turn. At least some of the population, because if you look at the numbers, he got about 26%. I think he did. I mean, his numbers weren't very high, to be honest. Like, but that's still enough to form a coalition.
Yeah.
In the electoral system there. So should we give him credit? I mean, everyone's like, oh, he's an electoral genius. Like, basically, his party won at best a third of the vote, and because of like the fucking deals with the devil he does, making obscene promises that he's not going to keep, he can form coalitions with the far right. Does that make him a genius, or does that make him a scumbag, or both?
Sellout, maybe. I mean, it doesn't mean it certainly doesn't mean he's unintelligent, but it also doesn't negate the fact that he's probably not a great person.
I don't understand why they went back, because like in the last day he basically said, "Oh, I'm gonna annex the West Bank," which is extremely ridiculous and provocative. But basically, he did it, and everyone was saying this, that he was doing it in order to kind of cannibalize votes from the extreme right parties to boost his own faring in the election. So then when the election comes, he got dead even with guns, like same percent, like to the decimal point. And somehow the right-wing parties are still supporting him. I don't fucking get that, man. Oh. Why would you support somebody who stabbed you in the fucking back the day before the election?
I imagine that they feel that his policies will be closer to them than...
He's a bullshit artist.
Yeah,
and
true.
He's never done anything, man. His basically policy is like Donald Trump, which is utter mismanagement and stagnation. Like, he hasn't really done anything in 13 years.
Yeah, absolutely. But look at it from the perspective of even Hillary Clinton, but even Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, anyone on the left, if we broke our factions up into like, say, like a democratic socialist camp, a centrist left camp, a right, or like a conservative right wing, maybe libertarian camp, and then a far right wing, like essentially ethno state, like favoring class, like of course the right wing is going to favor the person that's close to the right wing in general.
Yeah, but you can assume that that's the case when you have someone like Trump, who's been in power for a couple of years, and people haven't tired of his bullshit messages. But after 13 years, they should realize that he's more talk than anything else.
Yeah, but he's gonna do more for them than the opposition party. Like, he's gonna do more than
he's
like
done
a
nothing,
centrist
man.
liberal.
I don't know about that, and they don't know. They're just taking guesses, man. They're gambling basically that this is going to be better for them, but it really hasn't been great for them to begin with. Yeah. All he's offered them are these little tokens, like what he got Trump to recognize Jerusalem as the capital, as like bombastic as that was for the world. Israel has declared Jerusalem as their capital since 1967, basically.
Yeah,
like since they occupied the entire city, like. This is not news. Just the United States accepting this is symbolic.
It's symbolic, yeah. But that's the thing, is it's symbolic,
but that's nothing. That's not substantive.
But it means things to people, and I think in a lot of cases that people don't actually look at real policy substance. They're more focused on the outward appearance of things and remaining popular, and I think that helps.
You may be right.
And also he threw them a bone with giving them the Golan Heights, man. Just literally right before the election.
Oh, that's again Trump, man. That's
I know.
Trump. The Golan Heights.
I know.
I mean, yeah, this was just. I mean, this is. It's just idiotic.
Yeah,
the Golan
absolutely.
Heights. was nobody ever questioned the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights, I still don't understand why anybody was even talking about that, because Israel was never going to give back the Golan Heights. I mean, they've said as much.
Yeah.
There aren't even any Arabs who live there. They're all Druze, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, anyways, I think this is so stupid. I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, well, we all are.
Anyway, I got that out of my system. Anything you have to add?
Not really. I mean, I was actually, I don't follow the Israeli scene as probably maybe as close as you do, because like you write about it more and stuff. But I don't know. Like I was actually surprised that it was so close, and then when I saw that it was like basically deadlocked, I was like, oh, this is promising. And when it held out for too long, I was like, yeah, he's probably gonna pull this out. Like
he was like, I was surprised because Gantz basically he did a George W. Bush like in 2000.
Uh-huh.
He was like up like a quarter of a point with like 60% in, and he's like, I'm the winner, and like I'm gonna make a new country, you know?
Yeah.
So he basically
So
did the
stupid.
preemptive declaration victory, which is basically how George W. Bush won the election. By getting everyone to call, you know, Al Gore sore loser.
Well,
Because
yeah,
he
and then
declared first.
yeah, it's true, but then also the whole thing. I mean, what it really came down to was Florida, which I mean, again, yeah, that also happened to be messaging and things like that, and also a lot of
Exactly, man.
a
You don't
lot
think
of
they were
bullshit-
influenced by
bullshit.
like the Florida election recount effort was completely influenced by public opinion by that point. Like,
Yeah, and I mean,
if Bush
yeah.
had not declared victory, then I mean he was basically acting like he was going to be president. He's like, "Oh, come on, what's the holdup?" And the public pressure just got to these fucking people.
Yeah.
There's no way that would have happened. If Gore had declared victory, then it would have been different. 100%.
Yeah, probably. I would say probably.
Okay, not 100%. I would wager a bet.
I would
Anyways.
say that's fair. Yeah, I'd say you're fair on that. I wouldn't give you a lot of pushback on that.
So I was impressed that he did that, but Netanyahu came out 2 hours later. He's like, "No, I'm the winner," you know.
Yeah. That's the thing
And,
is that if you don't back out, I think that's if one thing anyone has learned from Trump is just if you're just totally unapologetic and just like I don't think anyone should really follow this lead that much, but in some ways it is a good strategy is just to be an actual like strong person. Like Trump does it in a really stupid way, but like to be strong about it. Like calling an election beforehand is not necessarily strong, but you know. The same idea is there. Like basically he just keeps saying the same thing over and over again, even though he's clearly lying, and it's just like, well, people just eventually accept it as fact, or they just say, well, he says this and they say this, so we don't know. Which I would call an indictment of our media, but it's getting a little off the subject.
I agree with you in principle on that. Although I think the media is getting better.
Yeah,
Much better.
I agree they're getting better, far too slowly, I would say. But yeah, in some ways they're getting better. I mean, they didn't apologize like at all like for like the whole Russiagate thing, and like still some of them are like trying to keep that stuff alive, and it's just like, can you let that die? Like, can we go after him for something that we're gonna get him on, like tax evasion or something? But instead they go after Bernie Sanders about his taxes. It's like, fuck.
Yeah,
Missing
even though
the
Trump
point.
hasn't. Oh my gosh, it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah, it's absolutely frustrating. It's like mind-bogglingly stupid the way they go about some of this stuff, but it makes sense because most of the mainstream media doesn't want Bernie Sanders to be president. Those people are rich people. They don't. It's not going to help them for Bernie Sanders to be president. It's going to help normal people, and it's not in their interest.
I don't know, man. I don't know if there's a conspiracy against it. There definitely is.
I don't think it's like a smoke-filled back room. I don't want anyone to get the idea that I think like all these like media execs are like meeting in a back room like, oh, how can we fuck over Bernie Sanders today? No, but I think it's just the reality of the thing. Like they have corporate sponsors that want to continue paying sometimes literally 0% in taxes. So it's just the way it is. Like it's just in their interest to push against him and call him a crazy person and write tons of New York Times op-eds about how he's like a crazy socialist and how are we going to pay for that? Even though go to fucking BernieSanders.com and check. He tells you exactly how he's going to pay for it. Not to mention that it's literally cheaper than our ridiculous plan in the U.S. right now that's like basically double the cost of every industrialized nation in the whole entire world. It's stupid, but it drives me crazy watching that stuff. But we don't have to go on this rant right now. We can talk about other stuff that's relevant, but we can talk about other stuff that's happened recently.
And that whole list, man. Okay, well, that I went to the U.S. and Canada, so I saw a whole bunch of things that like I thought would be good debate topics.
Okay.
Because I think we'll have maybe a little bit different about the confinement of the mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big problem in the United States that you don't see in Asian countries. Basically, that schizophrenics are basic. I mean, it's not that they're not tolerated, but you just don't see the same thing. I think most of them, there's stronger institutionalization practices here where they won't allow schizophrenics to just kind of like wander out of supervision and just end up becoming homeless.
Sometimes I would say I've definitely, there's a few people in Zhongli that I definitely have noticed that they're not like, because okay, here's one thing that and I'm not saying you're saying this, but I just want to get this off at the beginning. It's like mental illness and like schizophrenia and things are not like predisposites for violence. Like a lot of those things.
I never said that.
No, I know. And I'm not trying. That's what I've said is I'm not saying that you said this, but a lot of people are going to think that that's what we're talking about when we're talking about this.
No, but I think that when it causes people to become homeless, then you lose. Certainly, you lose some element of quality of life, but it's also probably at a risk to yourself, especially because I'm talking about cities like Vancouver and Seattle. I mean, they're not the coldest places in the world, but in wintertime, I mean, it's conceivable that some of these people could die from exposure, and the homeless problems in these cities are stupendous.
Yeah. I've heard especially about places like that where it's really bad. I've never been to the worst place I saw homelessness probably was in New Orleans. When I went down there when I was in high school, I think, to help like rebuild houses after Katrina, and yeah, it was.
Wow, you Boy Scout.
I'm a Boy Scout. I mean, my family and my church was like, we're going down there, so I went.
I know.
Yeah, but like, yeah.
I went down as a 15-year-old to rebuild Katrina victims' homes. What the fuck did you do?
I hitchhiked by myself down there on my own dime and rebuilt 400 houses.
I used my birthday money from the past 15 years to help a starving child eat.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that was probably the worst place where I saw homelessness, and it was pretty bad. Like there was.
I mean, post Katrina, yeah.
Well, I mean,
and
there was people that clearly had like severe mental illness. Like I have a vivid memory of like watching a man like walk down the street with like really tattered clothes and just like literally like shitting himself while he's walking down the street, and like I will never forget watching that. I was just like, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. And but anyway, it definitely happens in Asia. But your point is well taken that it happens. I definitely, when I go to big cities in the U.S., it's disproportionate.
It's crazy, man. I don't know.
So, what you're saying is you think that these people should be like forcibly institutionalized?
No. Okay. Well, so what I'm saying is that we should reopen the debate about because right now basically the limit is potential harm to self or potential harm to others, and I'm not sure that in cities where I think homelessness itself, like if you are incapable of taking care of yourself, could that be considered harm?
I think it's hard. Yeah, I think
self-harm?
so. Yeah, I mean,
But it's not.
I think it's not intentional self-harm, but yeah, it's harmful to yourself to live on the street. Absolutely.
So if that's the case, maybe the system needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah, I could get on board with that. I think it has to be carefully done, obviously, and you have to have high regulation on those facilities to make sure that they're high quality, that you're not putting someone in like I don't want people to be put in jail because they're schizophrenic.
No. I mean, we already have mental institutions.
Yeah,
the question is whether the rules surrounding forcible institutionalization should be modified. And I don't know exactly how I feel. I'm surprised that you're so open.
What I would say is that putting those people in places like that, I think is okay as as a starting point, but we need to create some sort of program where we get these people on. This would obviously be a lot easier with a Medicare for All style system where the medicine is much cheaper to attain. But you get these people on the medication that they need, and then you help to integrate them back into society, because a schizophrenic person who stays on their meds can easily be a functioning member of society, and they're much more used to us as a functioning member of society than on the street or even in an institution.
A lot of them do qualify for Medicaid, and a lot of them do actually have social workers. But the problem is, it's hard to monitor these people, and it's hard to keep them on their medication, because a lot of them, especially the older generation drugs, they cause a lot of unwanted side effects. So the rates of people basically just stopping taking their medication is a lot.
My grammar's pretty poor because it's late, but
it's okay. We're both going to be a little sloppy. Yeah, I've heard that as well. I mean, I've obviously heard like a lot of big stories about people falling off their medication and lapsing into homelessness, or like getting hurt themselves, or like unintentionally or intentionally harming themselves, or even intentionally harming others. Again, that's not a symptom of mental illness necessarily, but sometimes it does happen. And so, yeah, I think there needs to be some sort of way to monitor these people more closely, at least until they get into like a very good routine of taking their medicine. And then even after that, there should be some sort of periodic checkup, like maybe you have like a free government subsidized like a health checkup every week or twice a week or something, to make sure these people are remaining stable. And I think that's just the right thing to do, to take care of these people, as healthcare should be a right for everyone, and that's part of healthcare, is mental health care.
I agree with you. But, yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, we solved it. It's another one.
We solved homelessness.
It's another one of the world's problems checked off our list. But yeah, I think that it would probably be easier to do in Canada than it would be to do in the United States, because the United States not only has the largest wealth gap now, since it had in the 1920s, like right before the Great Depression, but it also, without a nationalized health care, it's insane for these people to pay for their drugs. Like you said, some of these people do qualify for Medicare, but if you're not, especially if you're not on your meds before you're like trying to apply for these things, it's going to be very difficult to do that, to get the funding to get those meds in the first place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ugh. Well, we can all blame Herman Cain for this problem.
Yes, we can. We can blame probably 75% of the U.S. politicians on this one, because most of them are not in favor of Medicare for all, even though almost 70% of the American people are. So call your representatives and tell them that they're not representing you.
I will. We were supposed to do a call together, right?
Yeah, we need to do that. It would be good to like do it sometime when we're in the same city, but we could even do it over the phone. Yeah, we should do calls to like show people how to give them an example, because I think a lot of people are intimidated to like call their reps. But you can, if you're scared to like actually talk to someone, you can legit call like after hours, like call 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. after you get off work, and it will just pick up an answering machine. And the representative is usually not the person you're going to talk to anyway. You're going to talk to a staffer, but that's the same person that's going to listen to the message. And if they're getting flooded with these messages that say like, respectfully, like, I voted for you, and like, I appreciate this, this, and this that you did, but if you don't start voting for Medicare for all, like, there are other people I can vote for, or like, I'm going to encourage someone else to run, and I'm going to vote for them, and you'll lose my vote because you're not doing a good job of representing me. And that's pretty much all you have to say. And letters work too. You can email, write letters and stuff. All that stuff is effective.
Handwritten letters with blood.
Yeah, signed with blood, seal with the entrails of your enemies is always effective. All right, what's our next topic?
Well, that was really fast. Herman Cain.
Oh, boy.
The Cain train.
The Hermano McCain train.
Got a 999 all over your face.
That's right. Oh, man. So, yeah, he's got a quite an interesting past, and he just got recommended for the Federal Reserve Board.
Wasn't he in charge of some fast food restaurant?
I believe he has multiple, here, I can look up a thing real quick. about
Please do,
about
'cause
his.
I'm confusing him with the Los Pollos Hermanos guy now.
You think he's from Breaking Bad?
Well, he's like a slow-speaking, suit-wearing
Yeah.
Brazilian.
A buttoned up man. So do you want like the like
A crook in a suit running a chicken restaurant.
do you want like the whole breakdown of like his like the outline from there's a CNN Herman Cain Fast Facts. You want me to read it to you?
Sure.
All right, 1977, he begins working. Mid-1970s, he begins working his corporate career working for Coca-Cola. 77, he begins working for the Pillsbury Company. 82 to 86, he works for Burger King at a division at Pillsbury. And,
Okay, I've heard enough.
All right.
Just kidding. Keep going.
80. Yeah.
How
Oh,
old
here
is
you go.
this
Here's
guy?
his pizza thing. 88 to 1996, he's the chairman and CEO of Godfather's Pizza.
I was gonna say Little
Not
Caesars.
Little Caesars, Godfather's Pizza. So anyway, yeah, 94, 95, he's the president of the National Restaurant Administration. 94, he also attends Bill Clinton's town hall meeting in Kansas City, where he argues that against the president's health care plan. He was the Federal Reserve for Kansas City from 95 96. 96 to 99, he's the president and CEO of the National Restaurant Association. 2004, he loses the GOP Georgia primary for U.S. Senate. 06, 07, he beats liver and colon cancer. That's good. May 2011, he announced his candidacy for the Republican nomination for president. In the 2012 election. 2011, in October, his memoir, This is Herman Cain, My Journey to the White House, is published. No one cares. In 2011, so 24 days later, on October 30th, 2011, two female employees accuse him of inappropriate behavior, is what the words they use. So the next day, he denied the allegations and said he was not aware of any legal statements. Later, he changed his answer and said that he did not know about one of the agreements. So because both of those women received severance packages in the five-figure range. November 2011, he's at a press conference. Sharon Bialek claims that in 1997, sexually groped her when he was the head of the National Restaurant Association. The next day, the identity of the first woman to accuse McCain of the sexual harassment is made public, and she's one of the women who received a payout leaving the Restaurant Association, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, November 18th, so 10 days later, CNN confirms that McCain will receive protection from the Secret Service. So November 28th, 2011, so this is another 10 days later, Ginger White, an Atlanta businesswoman, claims that she and Cain had an affair that lasted 13 years. December 3rd, 2011, he suspends his campaign for president. July 4th of the next year, 2012, he launches CainTV.com, which I'm sure was a huge hit. February 2013, he's hired as a Fox News as a contributor. 2019, he published another book, which I'm not going to read. August 2nd, 2018, he announces the Herman McCain Show is leaving WSB Radio and will be instead streamed on his website. And 2019, President Larry Kudlow, who's President Trump's economic advisor, confirmed that Cain is being considered for Federal Reserve Board. And April 4th, Donald Trump announces that he's recommended Cain as a seat on the Federal Reserve Board. That is the whole concise history of Mr. Herman Cain. So, there you go. So what do you want to talk about Herman Cain?
Well, he's been Trump is trying to get him onto the new Fed board.
Yeah, I know. That's why that was the last point I made. Yeah.
So that's what I want to say, basically, that...
Oh, also, I'd like to say something that they didn't mention in the CNN thing that I just read, is that McCain has operated a PAC that has funneled Trump money. So that may be one of the reasons why Trump likes him. But it's just...
That's neither here nor there. I mean, the guy is a fucking loyalist, like...
It is. I think it is here, but
political
continuing.
hack.
Yeah, he's also a hack. Yeah, agreed.
So, fucking. What I'm upset about is that the Fed is supposed to be relatively immune from political issues, and Trump is just like everything else in the United States. He's trying to just shit all over our institutions and use the Constitution to wipe his ass.
Pretty much. Yeah, the Fed definitely should be as unpartisan, unbiased as possible, and that's again why it is more here than there, is because, or I guess maybe more there than here. I don't know. Whatever. It's pertinent. It's quite pertinent, because it's like the dude literally raised money for Donald Trump. Like, that's a clear conflict of interest.
Well, I mean, yeah, he shouldn't pick anyone that he has personal association with for a Fed. But what I'm saying is, I mean, it's not unusual. It's fairly normal already for presidents to basically appoint campaign officials and personal friends to high-level political jobs. Most of them are qualified for the jobs. Herman Cain is arguably not, and also has a very shady history behind him in the pizza industry.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty upset about that. I think this is really just another stain on our institutions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another slap in the face of the idea of America. I don't know. I have a pretty like I don't have like a rosy view of the US for like past 40, 50 years. I mean, there's stuff going back, as much as 100, 200 years that's pretty disgusting, that's been institutionalized. But yeah, this is just like to the nth degree. It's exponentially worse and just flat out bold-faced corruption, as opposed to at least stuff before was tried to, I guess, kept behind closed doors. That could be argued that maybe it's a good thing that now everyone's seeing it, but it appears that at least 30-40% of Trump's base doesn't care at all.
It's very sick. It's a sick, like, fetishized politics system, but
yeah. It's idolatry, basically. He's a celebrity, so it's cool. Like, it's reality TV. Reality TV has become our politics.
I was struck by the idiotic nature of one of these. Like, I was watching, I forget who it was, Maxine Waters. Hey? No, it wasn't Maxine. Yeah, I was watching Maxine Waters, but
Maxine Waters laid into what's his name, Mnuchin. Pretty
I saw that.
Yeah,
that was funny.
I enjoyed that as well. If anyone didn't see that, go watch Maxine Waters lay into Steve Mnuchin. She was like,
"Thank you, cancel your appointments."
Man, she.
I'm glad you'll be staying with us.
Yeah. She owned him because if you watch the video, he pushes his chair like he's getting ready to stand up, and he's like, wait a second. He realizes that like she's trapping him in, and he's just like, no, but I have a very important meeting. Like, if you want, I'll cancel my very important meeting, but like, and I'll stay here, but like I won't come back voluntarily. And it's just like, you're such a child, like you're such a baby. #sad, #baby.
Stephen Mnuchin is the biggest baby tooth in the world.
Yeah, he needs a bottle in his blankie. He's a turd, but what would you expect from the Trump presidency?
Fucking goober. Man, he's a fucking tool is what he is. He's a tool of the administration. I forget what they were even discussing. What were they talking about?
They were talking...
See, we lost the substance of the argument with all this fucking nonsense.
We did, but it was, it was funny. Oh, they were talking about releasing Trump's tax returns, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Another fucking thing where they're rejecting the fucking power of Congress to oversee the executive branch.
Yeah. Which is, I kind of mentioned it earlier. We were kind of, like, fiddling around the issue before, but, like, that's what makes me so mad about this whole Bernie Sanders tax thing. It's just, like... Literally, like, I think Elizabeth Warren and, like, one other no-name candidate on the Democratic side has released their tax returns. And, like, the other person is probably pulling at, like, 0.01%. Like, I literally looked at their name and was like, I don't know who the fuck this is. And I follow politics moderately close. And it was just, like, everyone else. Like, this is, like, on Twitter all today, I was just seeing people tweeting out the names of people who haven't. They were just, like, Democrats who have released their tax returns. It's just, like, no. Like, Beto hasn't. Howard Schitz hasn't, and they put him up on the fucking air every day. And how are you doing? I did see a good interview on CNN. I think it was on CNN where they actually held his feet to the fire. So props to CNN for that. I forget who the interviewer was, but if I see it, I'll give it a tweet and say like good job, because it makes me really happy when I see good journalism on the mainstream networks. So when I see it, it's happy. But it's such a joke. Like the president of the United States has not released his tax returns, and you're giving a guy who said he already said, I'm going to release them like around April 15th. Like it's coming up in a few days. Like I will release them soon. I want to give you 10 years of my tax returns. Also, Elizabeth Warren's tax returns were quite nice from everything I've read about them. They were very
Quite nice. They're very beautiful.
very clean. She paid a lot in taxes, and
She's got normal-sized hands, okay?
the only deduction she took was for like a eco energy deduction for like eco like putting like solar panels on their house or something. So
Fucking commie.
props to her. Now she's farthest thing from she's farther from being a commie than Bernie is, and Bernie's a long ways from being a communist.
Socialist. They just want their socialized medicine and death panels.
That's right. They want to line up the capitalists in the street and just shoot them and throw them into a big old open pit.
We're just going to be like Venezuela in about 2 months.
Oh, Venezuela. Can you believe it?
I mean, we knew it all along.
I mean, if you listen to Fox News, we've been going this way for a long time, and I encourage everyone, of course, to go over and watch Fox News and learn about how basically everything's socialist. It's not Norwegian-style systems. Those, we don't pay attention to those. Venezuela is what we need to look at. That's where we're headed.
Well, the difference is Venezuela is not a Christian nation. Whereas the Norwegian countries, they've got Christ on their side, right?
That's right. They're not like the home of like black metal and like burning down churches. They're good.
Nor are they bastions of capitalism.
They are.
Well, what I meant was Catholicism.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because we all know Catholicism is Satan itself.
Oh, well.
A lot of Christians will tell you that, my friend. I don't know if you know about this, but a lot of Christians vehemently hate Catholics.
Yeah, you told me all about that.
Yeah. I used to have a big problem with Catholics when I was young, and I couldn't tell you why it was. It was just like that's what you did. If you were like a hardcore Protestant, you were just like, don't you
spread hate?
Don't you just hate the Catholics? Aren't they just like so shitty the way they like?
You want to just kill all those Micks and Guidos?
They just sprinkle the heads of. They put water on babies' heads. Isn't that fucked up?
Idolatry.
It's ridiculous. I mean, sure, like they cut off the tips of baby penises like we do, but you know the rest of it is ridiculous.
I was watching some. This is not really on topic.
That's all right.
I'm finding a good way to waste my time today watching more of these, like, this guy, he'd take, like, the voices from video games and he makes, like, a soundboard. So he'll use these, like, video game characters to call people and just prank call them. It's, like, really intelligent and useful.
It's the useful information for your life.
Some of the best ones were, I heard a couple today where he was calling these church hotlines with, like, these people from cults from, like, Skyrim and stuff. The conversations were like appalling. He was like, oh, there's one from Fallout. There's like a guy in Fallout who keeps talking about like the Church of Atom, like ATOM.
Oh yeah.
And one of these church guys is like, why do you want to worship Adam? I don't understand this. Like Adam's a sinner. Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
It was really good, man. I can send it to you.
Yeah.
You get like 5 minutes to kill.
All right.
He called like 3 of them, and the middle guy, it was crazy because like at first they're like so cheerful, and then they start hearing somebody to proselytizing to them.
Yeah.
And they just get all defensive.
Yeah, they get. It's interesting.
He's like, you keep misquoting the scriptures here. It's like I don't know which Bible you're reading, my friend, my brother, but like.
You're going down the wrong path here,
Yeah,
brother.
but if you don't accept Jesus Christ in your heart, and if you don't follow the right scriptures, you're going to hell.
It's so strange. Man, proselytization is one thing that I do not miss from the US. I've never had anyone proselytize to me in Taiwan, though actually funnily enough, in one of the like small ass towns that I was in Korea, some lady gave us candy and gave us a tract. Do you know what tracts are?
No, is it like
It's just a Christian pamphlet, but they have to have their own name for it. But it was all in Korean. I was like, Tiabo, I can't read any of this shit. Like, I don't know what this says, but I was like, thanks for the candy, bruh.
but there's Mormons here.
That's true. There's Mormons and there's what's the other one?
Witnesses.
Yeah, there's both. They got both up in this business, but they don't talk to foreigners. I've only talked to them once.
They do. They always
really.
They always like nod their head at me when they see me.
Yeah. They like
fuck off.
They like nod to me, but they've never talked. They've only talked to me once, and it was because I was with Brian, and
Yeah, I was with you at the park.
oh yeah, you were. Yeah,
I don't like being proselytized to, so I don't want to talk to them.
They weren't. It was interesting because Brian is such a strong personality that he just like dominated the conversation. So he just kept asking them about stuff. He's just like,
yeah, that was pretty funny. Because he's like, "Have you ever jerked off? Like, don't you think about it sometimes?"
One of the kids was
virgins.
One of the kids was like telling me like about. He was like telling us about like how he used to have like a serious masturbation problem and like the Lord saved it, like stopped it all, and like
I don't remember that. I must have. Left.
I think you did leave. You left at some point. Because you were like, I don't want to hear this shit.
Because
we stayed with them for like a long time, man. We stayed with them for like multiple hours, and they were like, we gotta hit the hay. It's like our bedtime. Like we gotta be in bed by 10 o'clock because we gotta get up at 6. I was like, all right, Skippy, like, do you, boo?
Is that what you said?
No, I was just like, all right, guys, have a good night. Like I was
go worship your false idols, losers.
yeah. Enjoy burning in hell.
You're gonna die as virgins anyways.
I don't mess with those guys too much. Like I just try to avoid them. Like if I think they're gonna talk to me, because like I agree with you. I don't like being proselytized too. But we just talked to them and like had a number of like we weren't being mean to them at all or anything. We were just like pressing them on their ideas and stuff. And like they seemed fine. They were like kind of strange. Like they were kind of strange guys. But like they weren't proselytizing to us super hard or anything. I think they knew like, you know, we wouldn't be receptive to like. I think they know like foreigners aren't going to be receptive. Like especially people like that go to a different country. They're not going to be receptive to like.
They see like a bunch of dudes sitting around like a park table drinking at like 7:30 at night. They're just like, these guys are already way too far gone.
Yeah,
we can have a chat.
Exactly. I'm surprised they talked to us. I'm surprised they weren't like, we gotta go somewhere. Oh.
It's probably awkward for them to spit their Chinese is not bad, but it's not like stupendous. To spit their. Man, proselytizing must get really old and be uncomfortable for the most part. I can't imagine that it's like that fun for them. So like I can get why
they just want some human connection.
Yeah, man, they're just like, oh, let's talk to these American-looking like Satanists drinking in the park. Take a quick break from the Lord's mission.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? If we're lucky, maybe we'll save another soul.
Yeah, exactly.
You can join us in Joseph Smith's Sweat Lodge.
Well, they believe that you get you basically become your own god. Like you get your own planet, basically. From the way I understand it.
We shouldn't say too many bad things about Mormons or we'll get assassinated.
It's fine. Like I think the thing is like for the most part, Mormons are like very friendly and they're fine. Like I don't have a huge problem with them. Like I don't like proselytizing and I think it's kind of silly, but like
they seem to have a good sense of humor because like the Book of Mormon, like yeah.
Well, the thing is like the fact that like they like I heard that like a lot of Mormons went to watch this whole South Park, like the play that was it Trey Parker and whatever.
Oh, when I said the Book of Mormon, that's what I was talking about.
Okay, yeah. It's like the fact that like so.
I didn't mean that the Book of Mormon is humorous because I have to say I haven't read it. What I meant is that they went to see the Book of Mormon, the musical.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. So we're talking about the same.
We're talking about the same thing. That's right.
My idea first, Jordan.
You know, he claims he spoke with God and Jesus.
Well, how do you know he didn't?
Joseph Smith was...
All right, I won't play.
Oh, that's the episode.
No, that's the song. That's one of the songs.
The musical is unrelated.
I thought it had that song in there, but I don't know.
Really?
I'm not sure.
I feel like they couldn't get away with that. That would be just like hate speech. And like
maybe. Yeah, maybe.
They would get all the fucking sponsors would pull their ads.
It's possible. I'm not sure. I mean, I know what I basically heard was like one of my friends went to see the play, and he said like a bunch of the Mormons were like outside of the thing, like handing out pamphlets and stuff, and being like laughing about the play and stuff. Like, oh, this is fun. And I don't know if they're
What I'm saying is, I'm just making a comment about how sensitive people are. That like,
yeah,
that like, I think like this stuff that South Park does. I don't know. There hasn't been a season in a couple years, but people are like uber sensitive now to like any of these little slights.
yeah.
But by the way, do you think that religion qualifies as a protected group, that you can't discriminate against people for choosing a specific religion?
Ooh, that's a toughie.
Because if that's the case, then like, yeah. On one hand, I mean, can you say like rightist extremists that like Muslims are whatever something, but you can't say that the Mormon religion is foolish. I don't know where you would draw the distinction there.
See, I think it gets into like in some ways there should be some protections for religion, and I think there already are, but I don't think it can be a protected class to the level that like things like ethnicity, race, sexuality, exactly, things you can't choose. That's exactly right. That's where I would draw a line, because you have people like Jim Jones who technically started like that's basically a religion. Like some people literally considered it their religion, and it was part of their religion. And
yeah.
So
where do you draw the line?
Exactly. So I think that's why.
Go on, President Jordan. Tell us.
I think
now.
that's why it's more difficult, and so I don't know that I would have like a strong idea of where that line could be drawn. I think as long as the people basically aren't hurting anyone, then they shouldn't be able to be discriminated against for their religion. But then you also have to make sure that religion, because look at Christianity right now, a lot of those people would discriminate against Muslim people, against homosexual people, transgender people. So you also can't let a religion, while you're protecting the religion, you can't protect it while it discriminates against another class, a protected class.
It's complicated.
Exactly, and who's to say someone doesn't make a new religion that says the that's basically like the opposite of the very like talking of like very fundamentalist ideas of like what is that, like some sort of like old ancient, like basically just a white supremacist ideology is what I'm trying to say. Like,
and called it a religion.
Yeah, if they were just like the white man is like created by God to be the superior class, and like these other people are mixed race. They're like the Canaanites, basically. They're the Canaanites. Because that's literally things that some white supremacists will argue, is they'll say that like, even though at the same time they'll like say that the Jews are like inferior races, and somehow that the white person is like superior, which is not biblical at all. But
and the Europeans were the ones who persecuted the Christians for hundreds of years until Christians suddenly became cool.
That's right.
They completely ignore that.
Exactly. They don't. Well, it's because they're ahistorical. Most of those people haven't read a history book in their whole fucking life. So, what are you gonna do, man?
Oh man, I was reading an article today, to digress, about Donald Trump, that he went to Mount Vernon, and I think the guy leaked on purpose, but the tour guide was like a historian, and he's like, I've never met any politician who was less informed about history than Donald Trump.
I think Trump literally said that he's never read a history book.
Apparently, the comment that he said was like, If Washington really wanted to be remembered, he should have put his name on the house. That way people would remember it.
He said that. And it's like, bro, you heard about that city that you fucking live in called Washington, D.C., bitch?
Or the state, for fuck's sake. Or his name on the fucking $1 bill.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. What a fucking idiot.
He's like, I've never heard of this Washington guy
Or on
before.
the quarter, for that matter.
This guy could have done a lot better for himself if he had only declared bankruptcy a few more times.
Yeah, six or seven times like I have.
Left the creditors with the bill. That's how you get rich, my friends.
You know how you get rich is, well, I guess Washington did do this one, was that he hired a bunch of people for free, which is what Donald Trump loves to do.
I'll tell you what the real secret is. Prenups. 2 words, my friends. Prenups. You can marry any model whore you want, import them from any third world European shithole country, fuck them for a few years, drop them to the curb. And those two little words, my friends, prenups. Those will keep you rich.
You can have a shitty daughter named Tiffany that you'd never wish happy birthday to.
Who the fuck is Tiffany? I won't allow cursing in my house. The White House.
That's right.
You know they would call it white, right?
I'm surprised he hasn't tried to, like... I think probably after that Mount Vernon visit, like in maybe a couple months, he's going to be like, I think we should change the name to Trump DC.
After he gets his military parade. I almost served in Vietnam, but I had bone spurs.
Yeah, which foot was it? I don't know. Both. Maybe both.
The doctor's records, they've been destroyed. Don't look for them.
At least I wasn't captured like John McCain, that piece of shit.
I like people who weren't captured, like me. I was studying at Wharton with my dad's money.
Yeah, I was. I had my own Vietnam, which was avoiding the clap.
Oh my gosh!
He said that shit, right?
Really?
Yeah, he said.
No,
he said.
didn't.
Yeah, he said. He said I had my own personal Vietnam. It was avoiding VD.
Well, I was jerking off next to my friends. A lot of them had it. It was a sick time, my friend. Sick time. You know what the worst part? He saw Washington's bed, and he apparently grabbed the headboard. He's like, this looks like a good bed to die in.
Oh my.
Good bed. Good bed, folks.
Oh my goodness.
I can send you the article with all those little sad details. And apparently he's because he went with Emmanuel Macron, and Macron apparently was way more knowledgeable about it.
Oh, of course. Macron's a piece of shit too, but yeah, that's surprising.
Is it?
Trump? Macron is just like sacre bleu.
Wow, Jordan, getting racist there.
No, that's a good French word. You don't like sacre bleu? It's not racist to say that the French president speaks French. Okay, so quick side note. We don't have to delve into this too deep because we got so much to talk about, but excuse me. How do you feel about the yellow vest protests in France?
Oh, those are old. Right?
Yeah, I think, a little bit. But
they just need to break up the union and fucking get to work, lazy bitches.
Jeebus.
It's obviously a joke. Well, I forget what they're protesting. What are they protesting? The price of gas?
Yeah, so basically it was kind of the price of gas, but it's basically like a gas tax that they're increasing. And so it kind of started in a lot of rural areas. The way I understand it, I'm not knowledgeable at this a whole lot, but I was just kind of wondering what your thoughts were. But yeah, basically it's from...
I think we talked about it before. I think a gas tax is okay because it'll lower consumption. But at the same time, they should probably slap on additional taxes to power plants too, just to kind of even the load that it's not all being placed on consumers.
That's right. They need to because they already pay. I forget what the figure is, but it's something absurd. It was
well, they're trying to reduce gas.
I know, but it was 40 to 60% of the price that they pay for gas is taxes.
Yeah, but that's not surprising. I mean, they do the same thing to cigarettes. And I wouldn't say that's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but you have to also at the same time subsidize clean energy highly by the government.
So yeah, they should use every penny from that to build windmills in front of Donald Trump's golf course.
Well, and also they need to also highly increase transportation, because that's the biggest. I agree. Yeah, they need to. What you were saying is they need to.
Yeah, but they need to be careful in France, because if they increase it too much, then all the Arabs will go to the countryside on the weekends. That's a racist French joke.
Of course, I know. I know you're kidding, but that's why I laughed. But
but that's probably something they actually.
No, yeah, about. That's probably something that they're actually afraid of. But the thing is even in terms of maybe you don't even. I mean, public transportation is of course I think more important, but even just subsidizing like Taiwan does. Taiwan subsidizes one, just newer scooters that are more gas efficient, but also they subsidize electric scooters and things like that. Electric forms of public, not public, private transportation. So I think you have to do both. So in terms of, yeah, like you said, coal plants or these old forms of dirty energy, you need to tax them super, super high and force them to convert to green energy and use that tax money to fund both public transportation and private transportation, and also things like windmills, that cause cancer, but that's something you got to deal with. You got to deal with the wind turbines causing cancer, but you also got to.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's true, man. That's a dangerous thing. Like, a lot of people aren't aware that wind turbines cause cancer.
It's bad, man. It's really serious. So maybe solar is maybe the way to go, because wind turbines and the sound, I think it's the reverberations that it causes in your brain, it formates cancer.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. Your house just went down 75% in value. And they say the noise causes cancer. You told me that one, okay? The thing makes it so... And, of course, it's like a graveyard for birds. If you love birds, you'd never want to walk under a windmill because it's a very sad, sad sight. It's like a cemetery. We put a little...
I think it's just listening to Donald Trump speak causes cancer. It's a confounding factor.
I think you might be right.
Staying at... No. The reason is because staying at Trump hotels cause cancer.
Ah.
They just happen to be in close proximity to the windmills.
I think that's the rub right there, is that staying at Trump hotels, because of the proximity to windmills, which I'm surprised he hasn't torn down, He knows they cause cancer.
Well, it's not up to him. They're in the ocean outside of his golf course.
It's true. Hey, also, a lot of golfers have been criticizing Trump's golf game. They said he's a fucking cheater. Did you hear about that?
I mean, it's not surprising. He cheats on women. He cheats on his taxes. He cheats in the election. He cheats on Ivanka.
He cheats with Ivanka?
He cheats on Ivanka with Jared.
Yeah, it's bad, man.
Jared, I need a rub down tonight.
He's a serial cheater. Oh.
I'm gonna go visit Ivanka later, but
thinking of...
I need a guy who really knows his way around a male anatomy tonight.
Thinking about a Trump needing a rub down is one of the more disgusting things I've ever thought about in my life. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to sleep tonight.
Pretend like you're Stormy Daniels.
He's like, this looks like Toad.
What? What? I don't know.
You don't get the reference?
No.
She said in her memoir that his Johnson looks like Toad from Mario.
Oh. The size of his head, very small, folks. Very small.
Super small. Hugely small.
The smallest. All right. Joking aside, incest is not a joke.
It shouldn't be, but it's a thing,
All right. Should we move on to the next of these hot issues?
What are we talking about now?
Okay, so one thing in the recent immigration stuff that Trump's been doing, he basically made the statement that the United States is pretty full, that we can't accommodate any more people. So, I mean, obviously that's a preposterous thing to say, because there's land all over. But here's the question. People on the left made the counter argument that, well, if we want to continue having economic growth, we need continuous immigration. So, why intrinsically do we want economic growth for the sake of growth? I mean, or because it's going to increase our quality of life? If you only have economic growth simply because the population is increasing, and the population increase means more people are working, that doesn't mean the standards of living are increasing. That just means the economy is growing because of more people.
Yeah.
Do we want growth for the sake of growth, just so we can say that, oh, our GDP numbers are higher? Or do we want growth for the sake of increased standard of living? And if that's the case, I mean, if immigration from other countries would pull up the standard of living, is that something that's necessary? Should we have more economic growth? Or does there come a point where we just say our standard of living is high enough, we should just stop wanting more?
Who are you asking?
You.
Me, I think.
Who am I asking? Abby.
Well, yeah. Well, unfortunately, she's taking a shower.
Really?
I have no idea, but I assume.
Somewhere she's taking
I
a shower.
assume when
sleeping.
she's not talking to you or I that she's just showering. She lives in
Sleeping in the shower.
She lives in like an incubation chamber that just has a constant shower flow. But
That's a fact.
that or brushing her hair. Those are, or putting on lipstick. Those are the three things that she does. But,
When you say brushing her hair, you mean brushing her hair off the floor, right?
I mean brushing her hair onto the floor and subsequently off the floor.
It's a vicious cycle, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be cruel.
It's terrible. All right. What I would say is that right now we're the most prosperous nation that the face of the earth has ever seen. So if we want to talk about, we don't need economic growth for everyone to increase the standard of living. We need to change the policies. Yeah, we need to change policies. We could easily have much better. We could raise the standard of living for the lowest. We could raise everyone to the middle class in a second. Not a second, obviously, but a couple. I believe within a year, we could easily raise everyone to parity.
I think that, like, in terms of, like, salary, maybe, but, like, structurally, no. Like, if you had, like, guaranteed minimum wage. But if you're talking about everyone can have a middle-class lifestyle where they have a stable life, then I think that it would take decades of cultural rejuvenation.
What do you mean by cultural rejuvenation?
Wow, you're going to get me making some controversial statements here.
That's what we like here, Ari.
Well, I think that, first of all, everyone should be sterilized. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Everyone should have their balls chopped off.
Well, no, we should sterilize women only.
Yeah,
because
of course.
that's the only gender fair thing to do.
That's right. That's fair. It's easier. It's more invasive, but it's better. It makes more sense because men are concerned about their testiculars.
Well, men would lose pleasure. Anyway, let's not get into it. I was joking to begin with, and then I carried it.
Again, everyone knows that these are jokes. We're kidding about these things. Obviously.
It started as a eugenics joke, and then it turned into a misogynistic joke after that.
Hey, if you can get
you should give me
if you can get a
props.
2-for-1, I'm on board. I'm on board, man. Yeah, I love it. All right, but
this is okay.
Go ahead with your actual point.
I think that if you give people, let's assume that a nice standard minimum wage life consists of with making no like value and culture judgments. Mm-hmm. Everyone has basically a basic standard of living. They have clean, stable housing. Okay, they have access to nutritious and balanced foods. They have access to equivalent education in order to or opportunity to education at the very least, so that they can try and accomplish whatever their goals are. And most goals, let's be real, but most worthwhile goals in the world are accomplished through some kind of education or training. If we consider that in the modern world, the basic way of purpose in life is working, whether that's good or bad. That's what our culture has defined the purpose of life, basically.
Yeah, I have some qualms with that, but yeah, go ahead.
I think that's even more common. You're not going to shatter that, but imagine that you don't have a job and you're just waking up every day to whatever.
I'm not saying here's what I'm saying is not that you shouldn't have to work. What I'm saying is that your identity doesn't have to be tied up in your job. Like when you ask someone,
of course,
yeah.
but the purpose of life generally for a lot of people don't think about it, but for most people, they would say in the end it's to raise a good, for the average American, a good family probably,
yeah.
and some form of what they would say is productive labor. So even if it's not a job, even if they produce something, so like if it's a hobby,
yeah,
they're retired, they produce whatever, they produce a good golf game, they produce good art or poetry or a family. I guess that's productive labor too. So some kind of productive labor.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so that's a side note. My point being that to provide that to all people, you could give them money, you could give them resources, but I don't think that it would be stable. You would need to. I think that most Americans, if they were just handed all these things, and that includes the upper class, if they didn't have to struggle for these things, they would still be unhappy, and they wouldn't utilize it. They wouldn't make use of it.
That might be fair, but what I would say is that it is the duty of a government to use these resources in a responsible way to make sure that at least the citizens have the opportunity to make the best of their situation.
I completely agree with you, and I'm not saying the government shouldn't provide those things. What I'm saying is that it wouldn't make America middle class. It would temporarily put America in a middle class lifestyle, but it wouldn't provide the means to sustain that middle class lifestyle without basically government support forever.
I don't know if that's true. I think if you got the minimum wage high enough, in terms of economics, it would allow them to be,
well, that's different.
so that's So if you're speaking,
but no, I don't think it would work overnight. I think that
no, I'm not saying overnight. I'm saying a year, maybe 2 years.
I don't
a few
think
years.
2 years.
I think
okay,
so, but anyway,
let's speculate. Let's carry that out that idea, because I think that's really interesting. What would you say you'd need to do to? Because what I read today is basically 75% to 200% of the median wage right now is considered middle class. So let's say you lowered it to the middle class wage, which is not that much actually, $22K. Okay,
$22K is considered middle class.
That's according to
For a single adult, right?
Yeah,
Not for a fan. There's 22 is very close to the poverty line for a family.
for a family maybe, but for a single adult, yeah.
Okay, for a single adult, I still think that's too low. It depends on where you're living. So that's
Minimum wage of $15 an hour would bring you to $30K a year, which is like, I think that's decent. Let's say 15,
30K a year I think is decent unless you live in like New York City or something like that.
I honestly I get so frustrated. I'm not saying towards you. I get really frustrated when people are like, oh, there's like living in these big expensive cities is like really expensive, and like they don't take into account, like, shut the fuck up and move out of your fucking New York City like loft, you fucking pampered bitch.
So
like,
what I would say is I agree with you in terms.
you don't have to live in San Francisco or New York or LA. Like those are three of the most horrible cities in the United States. Like, and if you want to live in those cities, I'm sorry, but that's your problem, and like the rest of America doesn't have to suffer because of your poor choices. And like, yeah, you might have family there, but like, we all have disasters in our lives.
Yeah. I mean,
That sucks for you. Like, sorry.
yeah, I think to some
Get the fuck out of this city.
to some degree that's true, but there are
There
it
are
depends on
dozens of, like,
which
mid-sized
part
cities.
because New York City is like huge. Like there are parts that are like very poor, but because of gentrification, like they have a lot of like increased living costs.
I don't understand why the hell people don't just get the fuck out. Like,
It's difficult to move your entire life, like to find another job in another part of the world.
it's difficult on like a $30,000 salary to pay $3,600 a month in rent. I don't understand how, if they can afford those insane rents, they can't afford a moving
But that's
truck.
yeah.
I don't buy that.
But
I
that's
mean,
the thing
I do
is
buy
because
it.
because of we have debt, and we also have things like generational debt and things like that. So it's not. I don't think it's that easy. I think in certain cases, I agree with you. Like with the hipster kids that move to like New York City, and I want to be like I'm like a rich bougie like upper class kid, and I want to be a slam poet or something in New York, and then they totally fail, and then it's like, okay, yeah, you could move away and do something. But for the people that are generationally tied to those places, in a lot of cases they don't have any money to move out. They don't have savings. Like a lot of the average U.S. person doesn't have enough money to afford a couple $100s in an emergency. So yeah, I get your point. So if we raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour, then I would agree with you much more about, yeah, fucking stop whining, move the fuck out of there. You can go you can go work at McDonald's in the middle of fucking Missouri and make $15 an hour, or even $13 an hour in the middle of Nevada or something like that. You could easily sustain yourself. So yeah, stop your bitching. But the system as it is, I have a little bit of a qualm with that, depending on the person you're talking about. Some of the people, I agree with you. There are a lot of whiny people that I'm just like, yeah, shut the fuck up. Stop trying to be an actor and move out of there if you're not qualified to do that. But so I think it's a little more nuanced than that. But I feel your point. I get what you're saying.
I get what you're saying too. Yeah, I as far as establishing like federal minimum wages though, like we don't need to factor in like ridiculous like outlier cities that account for most people who are I'm sorry to say, but like if you're making $50,000 a year, you're not poor, like flat out. And if you think you're poor, it's because you made horrible choices to live in these horrible cities. You could easily just I shouldn't make judgments about like, people in general.
It depends, because if you're making $50,000 a year in New York City, you might be doing like a relatively like a job that in say in my not really home state, but like the state I lived in for a long time, Missouri, you'd be making significantly less money unless you moved into a super big city. But
like I don't understand how they can still complain. Like if you feel so bad for yourself, if it's so hard, then and I get every person's situation is different, but if you're making that much, the least you could do is save for like 3 months and just get somewhere.
Well, that's the thing is if the rent is so high in these places and
rent, it's too damn high.
The rent is too damn high, man. It's some of those people, they literally can't, they get themselves in these situations, which I care less about, but like I have friends who have lived they were born in New York City and they live there, and some of them can't save enough money to move out because every month they need to pay rent. They live with their parents and they cannot save enough money at the jobs they're currently at, and they're working to save more money. But it can take years to save enough money to pay to move out and like move to a different city. I get what you're saying. So like,
I mean, they've set themselves into a debt trap. But
but that's the thing is they were born into that. It's not that they set themselves. It's not like they moved there. I can understand someone who
people get themselves in debt traps all the time, but that doesn't mean we need to set federal policy around a few people and their debt traps.
That's what I'm saying. What I would say is that we need to raise the minimum wage high enough where you can move to another city and make money. So I think and on the base level we agree. So yeah, I agree. If we set it to $15 an hour and people still say, "Oh, in New York City it's too expensive," then I say, "Okay, then suck it. Move the fuck out. Go to North Dakota and fucking work at McDonald's for a few months, and because the rent is so low and the pay is significant, you can save some money and then you can figure out what you want to do from there." So I agree with you, but right now that is not the case, because if you move to Missouri right now, I did it. I moved there. I went to college there. I worked my ass off. I went to school full time and worked 40 hours plus sometimes. I worked 2 jobs, and when I moved to Taiwan, I literally had almost no money saved. Like I came here with almost no money. And thankfully now I've moved here, I paid for the plane ticket, I had no money, and now I've saved like a pretty substantial amount of money. Not a ton of money, but like more money than I would have ever saved in the U.S. with the fucking educational background that I have.
Wait, so I forget how we linked onto this, honestly.
Yeah, I also kind of forgot how we got into this. But we were talking about how increasing the U.S., basically making everyone become middle class. How can we do that?
Oh yeah. Okay. So you make it $15, and then what? Because like, I feel like culturally, would that give everyone enough to make a middle class wage? I feel like no.
I think there's other policies that need to be included. Continue. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, keep going.
I was just going to say, I think there are other policies that need to be included in that. The number one is Medicare for all.
Yes.
If you have a Medicare for all system and you have a decent minimum wage, whatever it is, $15 is what everyone wants to say now. I think maybe even a better system would be to create local boards, maybe district by district or state by state, and you find what is you obviously you need to pair this with inflation. So you need to say that as inflation increases, we are going to increase the minimum wage. You
don't need local boards to do that. I mean,
but what I'm saying is, if you do it locally, then you can because a lot of people complain.
But they do have that locally, and that's the problem. And the state minimum wages barely. I mean, they go up in like blue states, but they don't go up in red states because. Yeah, because you know why.
But here's what I'm saying: is if you create like a federal law that says minimum wage has to have some sort of local board, and that you value it. You say like, okay, this is maybe $15 is what we need in Seattle to give you like a middle class outcome. But maybe $13 in St. Louis, and maybe $12.50 in Kansas City, and $17.50 in New York. And you tie that to inflation, and you say, we are going to keep this tied to inflation, and this is how it's going to go from now on. Then that would be okay with me, because a lot of these local places will say, oh, $15 is too high. Like, if my boss in the place that I worked in college had to pay me $15 an hour, it would have been maybe tight for, I don't know. I don't know exactly the financial situation of the business, and there's a lot of studies that show that if you pay $15 an hour, like, it's really not going to have a big effect. Like, employment is not going to decrease. Employment will stay the same. And also the price of goods will not increase. So the people that yell, oh, the prices are going to increase so much if we increase the minimum wage. No, they're not.
Yeah, what about this fucking, the China tariff?
It's a stupid thing. And they argued that, and there was a study done basically with McDonald's for any, like, an easy comparison. Basically, they said, like, the price of an average thing in McDonald's would increase 2 cents if we increased the wage to $15 an hour. So it's a joke, especially with these big companies. But for small businesses, if there's some sort of exemption, I could understand that. Or even if you said, like,
no, I don't agree with you. I think that it needs to be universal.
I could agree with the universal, but that's again where I'm saying, if you pair it to local level, I could understand that. But if we went straight to $15 an hour, I'm okay with that too. Or whatever we decide is, like, we'll raise people to that minimum. But I think that, yeah, I think maybe this is an agreement with you, is that, yeah, just changing the minimum wage is not going to have a radical change. It will have how should I say this? It will have a radical change, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone will be lifted out of poverty. You have to do things like, yes, change the minimum wage. Medicare for all is a must. You have to have that. And I think also student loan forgiveness is a huge thing, to whatever level that ends up being. And also tuition-free or at least highly subsidized public college, I think, is also a big thing. And I think if you do those things, you could quickly see the U.S. raise almost everyone, to a very, very close to middle class. We could have very high level of a middle class inclusion. And I'm going to stop talking because I ranted for way too long.
I get what you're saying. I agree with you in principle.
So, do you have any like disagreements with that, or like substantive disagreements, or just ideas that you think I didn't state clearly? I guess I don't know.
I think that it depends. If you would consider that minimum wage, it's hard to say. Would that make America middle class? I mean, yeah. If you consider middle class, it's just basically having those necessities. Then yeah, essentially, what I meant is more like, yeah, maybe you're right.
I think I kind of get what you're saying. It's like maybe people won't feel fulfilled. Is that what you're trying to get at? Is like people won't feel totally fulfilled?
Yeah, I think they'll probably be doing the same shit jobs, or it won't change unemployment levels significantly. So you'll still have big structural unemployment problems.
I mean, the thing is, we don't have a huge structural unemployment problem in the U.S. I mean, we have it hovers around 3 to 6% basically, and like, yeah, that's bad, and there are probably ways to address that. But I think if we get people to a place where they can, because for me, I don't necessarily find my identity in my job. Yeah, I love the job that I do, and I love teaching, and I find I get a lot of joy out of that. But even when I was working in the job that I was working before, like basically being like a waiter, I guess, kind of like working at a counter in a restaurant, serving people food, like I got some joy out of that. But if I made a decent amount of money, I would find my identity in other things. Like I would find my identity in getting off and like right now, I find a lot of my identity in getting off and like reading news and politics and writing articles about it, or talking to you on the podcast, having meaningful discussions. I find I get so much more joy out of that than in some ways teaching I do too, which is nice. But like, for instance,
what I'm saying, if you only did this and you didn't make enough money to support yourself with this, which obviously we get money.
Get zero, yeah.
Then I think that you would be eternally frustrated. You'd say, I'm fucking up. I'm not building anything. It's not enough.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is that that's why I have another job that I could, and I've said this before, is if I never make money off of this, I will keep doing it, because there is some fulfillment that I find it. I find it fun. I find it intellectually stimulating, and I think that it makes me grow as a person to have these sorts of discussions with people, and also just to say the things that I'm going to say, and then be able to reflect on them later and be like, oh yeah, you said that was stupid, or oh, that was actually maybe a decent point. And other people can get that from other ways. Maybe you're playing an instrument. Like I'm also learning, like teaching myself how to play guitar, and like I get a lot of enjoyment and fulfillment out of that. And so I think that's what I was saying earlier, is like I don't think we need to tie our identity so much to our job. And some people, maybe it's good for them to do that. Maybe they love that. Like they're a professor at a prestigious university, or they're a politician, or whatever it is, but people get a lot of value and joy out of things like volunteering, and that doesn't have any wage. Obviously, inherently, it doesn't have any wage.
You're right, but yeah, I don't know if people would do that. That's what I'm saying, that they would just...
I think people are always going to volunteer. People are always going to do they're going to have their hobbies, and a lot of times that defines who they are. Like, I have friends who...
For retirees, but retirees are...
No, I have friends that do music, and like the Seth who I had on the podcast before, like I don't want to speak for him, and that's what we should do, a three-way podcast with him, because I think you guys have a lot of similar ideas. But I think he gets a lot of value out of like doing music, and he like does like a lot of things like that, and I think he gets a ton of fulfillment out of that, and it doesn't make him a ton of money. He works a full-time job, but on the side he does that, and that gets him a lot of fulfillment. So I don't think you necessarily have to tie your identity and like getting fulfillment out of your job. It's just maybe it's something you do to improve society, and in some way you get fulfillment out of that just from making society better by contributing to it, but maybe you get more fulfillment out of your hobby. I don't know. Because not everyone's going to be able to make money off, like, enough money to survive off their hobby. We clearly fucking don't,
One thing that I think about this idea of like a universal basic income is that it removes the struggle out of life. And I think that people naturally need some kind of struggle, some kind of difficulty to keep sane. Because if everything is too easy, they'll construct new conflicts, and it will cause social disruption. And that's just a theory, but I think you can see it. I mean, people seek kind of, not seek conflict, but kind of seek conflict, basically. That if things are too easy, it's human nature to try and find some kind of chaos, some struggle. You need to always be doing something. Because if you're just stagnating, I don't know.
Yeah, I would generally agree, but I don't. That's what I'm saying with hobbies and things like that. It's like those are the conflicts that we wrestle with, and I think you're gonna find the conflicts. You can find those conflicts elsewhere. I mean, of course, it's in some cases, like if someone has like an average.
That's why unemployment in like the Arab Spring countries was basically the biggest predictor of whether these countries would implode. And you can see it. I mean, it's one of the biggest parts of terrorist organizations, that basically you have these high expectation, basically high wealth households, these like upper middle class, for the most part, unemployed men who just like find a fucking conflict, more or less. They've got nothing better to do with their time.
Yeah, but I don't think the alternative to that is to just make everyone poor.
No, I completely agree with you. But I'm saying if you remove work, then maybe...
I don't think... That's the thing, is I don't think you would be removing work. I think you would still be encouraging people to do stuff. I mean, I don't know. I think you...
The point of a volunteer is that it's not necessary. That, like, if you didn't do the volunteer job... I mean, well, that's not always true, but in a lot of cases, that you're doing it without pay because it's not a necessary job, that it's something that is extra, like added to the good of society, and that's not to subtract from its value.
But I think that is a struggle in and of itself. It's a struggle against the problems of the world. I mean, and that can be in a society itself or externally. I think those things are a struggle. And even when I was talking about like learning guitar, that's a struggle. I'm struggling against my own inept fingers to push through that and learn something new. And Even I don't know, a lot of things can be that, or just finding joy and like hanging out with having more time to hang out with your friends, or having money to like go out and travel with your friends. I think that's it's not necessarily a struggle, but it's like it's pushing outside of your comfort zone to do something else. And I think that in some ways, in and of itself, is a struggle. So I agree with you. There's always going to be angry people that are going to find they're going to be go looking for a fight. And I think that we should find ways to diffuse that. But I don't think that should be some sort of idea that we should just say, well, fuck it, like we should let people be poor because even though they're working 2 jobs or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between poverty and work. But anyways, there was an old Kurt Vonnegut book I read a long time ago, and basically it's just about a world where everything's been essentially automated. That humans basically, I mean, just like all these doomsday predictions, that everyone's unemployed and everyone basically just gets a check from the government, and those who don't, basically they had created these nonsense construction jobs basically, so they'll just like build infrastructure and then tear it down again just to make them feel like they're doing something.
Yeah.
And basically, I mean, they have no purpose. They know that they're not doing anything useful, and they just start going insane until they just revolt and they just decide it's not worth living without any purpose. We'd rather have difficult. I mean, this is obviously just a book with fictional people, but they collectively decide that they'd rather destroy the machines and go back to living a tough, non-automated life than continue having no purpose.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair, and I think in some ways, yeah, that could. I mean, obviously, it's it's a work of fiction, so. But it does seem to have. I feel like it somewhat rings true. But I think in that way, it maybe says that we should push a little bit against automation. But it's gonna happen, man. Like this stuff is all gonna happen anyway. So I feel like we should fight it as much as we can. But these corporations, they don't care, man. I disagree. Their sole purpose is to make profit. No.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a real thing that there's gonna be like structural unemployment ever that like gets to that, unless there's AI that like basically can operate on the same level as the human. I don't.
Unless we, it depends. Because I mean, if we don't deal with the climate change thing, then we're gonna have a lot of adversity pretty soon. But I think that automation is definitely a real thing. Like we've already seen it. Like a lot of the jobs have already been automated, like factory jobs and things like that. Like a lot of people have been we have a lot of automation. We have a lot of factories in the U.S. right now, but basically they operate with like a shell group of people that work because we can work with that. Because basically you just need people to monitor the machines and take care of the machines, basically. So. Yeah, I don't know. And in some ways, it's gonna be a long way off before we have full automation. I agree with you. Like we're not gonna AI out like news agencies and things like that. There's a lot of jobs that are gonna be very hard to automate. But at the same time, the average person, especially the people that are already lower class, their jobs are going away, or they're being exported to China or Vietnam or whatever. So I think we have to deal with that in the United States, or we're going to have an increasing population that is more and more impoverished and more frustrated. And I think that is going to grow more problematic as we go along, and more violent, and it's going to increasingly grow worse. It's not going to get better unless we do something about it.
So what's the solution, Jordan?
I think the solution is what I said. I think you need to increase these social programs. You need to increase the minimum wage, and you need to encourage people to do things. Maybe you start these sorts of like volunteer work. You make them paid jobs. You make it a paid job to do things like cleaning up litter or whatever it is. And like instead of giving that job to a robot, the city employs people. Because we don't need to employ robots, and people hate the robots. There are robots that like do delivery and stuff, and people hate it. They kick them over and they like destroy them because they're like that's a
Are
job.
Are you talking about that traveling robot?
There are multiple robots. There are like some that work in like stores too, that like people literally like destroy it because they're just like, this is destroying our jobs. So yeah, why do that? There's no reason to do that, especially if it's in like the the public sector, like you should just be increasing those jobs. And that's why things like maybe a jobs guarantee is important. And I think that would be useful. And Bernie Sanders has talked about creating a jobs guarantee.
We already have a jobs guarantee. It's called public school teacher.
Okay, if you make education at least free or heavily subsidized, then I'm on board with you. I'm okay with that. Let's get public school classrooms down to 10 kids a classroom. I would love that. That would be amazing.
How about no, this is too small. It's not fun enough.
10 kids is good, man. You have so much time. You can play games and stuff.
At least 12 kids. 12 kids.
12 kids is okay. I'm okay with 12 kids. 12 is fine. That's a ratio I'm okay with. 1 to 12 is fine. But yeah, I don't know. I think that you need to make sure that the lowest rungs of society are protected.
Well, I found a sick meme while you're talking.
You bitch. You better.
It's real, Jordan.
You better send it to me.
I'm gonna tag you and post it on IG.
That's something you would do.
Yeah.
Hey, Joseph, I told my wife that you spoke with God and Jesus, and she didn't believe it.
Well, it's true. I did.
Where?
I was out in the woods, praying. I was asking God if I should be a Protestant or a Catholic or what. And suddenly, God and Jesus appeared before me.
All right, I have to stop playing that because we're gonna get sued.
Anyway, you can see that meme. That's good, right?
That's a very RE. It's a very RE post.
You like my hashtag too.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, so what do you think, man? Should we move off this topic? Have we stagnated?
Shit, man. I feel like we should probably end it here. We both got to be up early. We can do this later because we're already at around an hour and a half. I bet, right? I'm not that tired,
Yeah,
but
we're at like an hour and 40.
all right. Let's sign off before an hour and 40 minutes. So good podcast, great guy.
Yeah, that was really fun. So we decided murder all the capitalists and guillotine them in the street. It'll be good. We'll do it.
All right, signing off. Bye.
Love you, baby. Bye.